Hello, welcome to On the Whistle. Sunderland have just lost 2-1 to Watford at Vicarage Road. Phil, bitterly disappointing result. I thought that Sunderland were pretty poor in the first half, although they did come into it. Second half, I thought they were much better, deserved something out of that game, and a costly penalty given away by Dan Neil.
Yeah, it was a really strange game. I thought the first half was probably as poor as we've seen Sunderland all season. In fact, I think it definitely was. They barely had a kick, didn't they, in the first half an hour of the game. It was just quite hard. Obviously, we know that they're quite happy to sit off and counter-attack, but they were pretty much had 10 men in their own box for most of the game. It was really strange, and it's interesting asking Labrise about it there, and he made pretty clear it wasn't an issue with effort or mentality or anything. He said he felt that Watford's basically 3-5-2 formation had basically caught Sunderland out. Well, not caught Sunderland out, as in he felt that they struggled to deal with that. He said he made a little tweak for Neil to drop in almost as a third centre-half. And you did see the game change. I thought Sunderland ended the first half really well. Second half, totally dominated the first 20 minutes of the half. But then it was really open and could have gone either way, I think. Watford did come back into it. I think once they realised there were opportunities on the break, they did look lively. For me, I think a point would have been a fair result, probably. I think Watford completely dominated early on. And I don't think Sunderland totally dominated the second half. I thought they were marginally the better team, but Watford always looked a threat.
I thought when Watford scored, if anyone was going to score, it was going to be Sunderland when Watford got that penalty.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Sunderland was shading it, but it wasn't one-way traffic by any stretch of the imagination.
There was a couple of crucial blocks. There was one by Hume. I think O'Neill might have got one as well. So
it was strange in the end. I felt it was a slightly harsh result, and it was interesting speaking to Labrise there. I know he's quite a measured person anyway, so you're not going to get a strong reaction to a defeat, but he was quite upbeat. He was really pleased with the way that Sunderland had been sort of in a bit of a hole early on and had dug their way out of it, and that they'd found a solution. He was sort of, he was more upbeat than you would expect a manager to be after a defeat.
Well, his message was, I'm still building a culture, and basically he said that Sunderland need to do better, but he was actually pleased by how they were able to change tactically in the game.
Yeah, really disappointing. And you can't, away from home in the Championship, every team has really good players, and you cannot afford to give them a head start like Sunderland did today. And really disappointing, but I don't think it was a bit similar to Plymouth, really frustrating, but it wasn't like a terrible performance. It was.
I think it's maybe highlighted that Sunderland can be vulnerable on the counter-attack, actually, because I thought Watford had so much pace, quality and power as well that they were just sort of driving through Sunderland at times.
They've got good players. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I'll embarrass myself, but the number 8, the Georgian international, is a real threat. Mr. Sissoko probably doesn't have the legs that he had once upon a time, but he's still a really good player. Barr was really lively, the substitute that came on. They have got good players, we shouldn't be dismissive of that. And I think, to be fair, Sunderland were between a rock and a hard place, weren't they? Because when they were trying not to give counter-attacking opportunities up early on, they were just completely absent from the game in any kind of attacking way. So really disappointing, really frustrating. But I think, there were some positives to take, which we'll come on to. Isidore being the big one, he was excellent. Played like prop number 9. There's been so much debate about, he's not going to be a striker, he prefers to play off the left. That may be true, but he looked like number 9 today. He held the ball up when he was quite isolated in the first half, made some Ross Stewart-esque runs into the channel for something a bit different, took his goal well. I thought he was really good. I'm quite excited by his performance today.
I don't want to compare him sort of too closely to Ross Stewart because obviously he's his own player and he's quite new to the club, and I think it's unfair to put that level of pressure on him, but that's the first time since Ross Stewart left that we've seen somebody up there where I've thought, right, hang on, okay, he's got the right stature and he makes the sort of similar sort of runs in between that sort of forward channel. I don't think he's one-dimensional either.
No, he's not as dynamic as Stewart. He's not as quick and he's not as powerful a runner. I think he's going to be different. I think he's going to be more of a link-up player. But the intelligence and the understanding of the position.
And for the goal as well to be in that position was.
Yeah, and I thought he was willing to put his back into the defenders as well and scrap a bit, which is a really he's going to have to do that.
As well to just to keep going, because I actually thought in the first half he didn't really touch the ball too many times, but to have the wherewithal in the second half, obviously so close after the half-time break as well, to have the presence of mind just to get across the front post, the willingness, I thought that was really pleasing.
Another assist for Roberts as well.
Yeah, should we get to some questions?
Yes, we should.
That is the point of this video, isn't it? Ethan Todd, friend of the show, says, do you think Samed will come almost straight into the start 11 when fully fit and allow Neil to play in one of the 8 where he's seemingly more comfortable and productive? I feel like that's going to be a theme of these questions.
Have we got any other Dan Neil questions? Should we take them all as one? Because I feel like it's going to be a big talking point.
Another from Mike Smith, which we'll come to afterwards. Josh Kemp says, does Dan Neil need dropping? Seems to have struggled. And we could throw the the Dan Neil captain debate in there as well.
I mean, I don't think the captaincy thing's having any impact on his performance. You know, I just don't see that at all. I think that, you know, for me, like, obviously Dan Neil's made a mistake there at the end and given a penalty where, you know, when we asked Labrice about it, he did make the point that no player should be left one-on-one for that long, and that Neil didn't have the support. Obviously, it's a mistake. He shouldn't dive in to try and make the challenge, and that's costing them. But I think, like, realistically, Neil took on this role when Corey Evans got injured, and I think he's done an unbelievable job since then. And I know there have been some almost like high-profile moments where, you know, it looks like he's cost the team. But, you know, that Middlesbrough red card, for example, last year was unbelievably harsh. I think Dan Neil has 90% of the time been really good in that role. And I think that there shouldn't be any kind of overreaction to what is obviously a costly mistake. I think at the moment, I think that Sunderland, I think he's more exposed in that position defensively than he has been in the past, because I think Sunderland are playing with 2 8s rather than like 2 6s and a 10. I think that's very noticeable. And when other teams break, Neil is very often trying to defend against a couple of players on his own. Sometimes he's made some great challenges, sometimes he's not come out on top today. I don't agree with the assessment that Neil's been poor this season. I just absolutely don't. Has he been, you know, one of Sunderland's absolute best players? Maybe not, but I think he's done a decent job. He got sent off against Burnley, but he had a good game up until then for me. He's missed out on one challenge, which maybe he shouldn't make. But I just think there shouldn't be an overreaction to Neil. Yeah, I thought he had. I still think he can do that role. Will Samed come and play that role at times? I think he definitely will, because he's more naturally a defensive midfielder. I think that is a valid sort of discussion point. And I definitely think there'll be times where we see Samed play that, because he probably has got that more of those defensive abilities. But I think Neil's done an excellent job over a long period of time in that position. And I think he's a brilliant player going to the top. Whether he'll do that as a 6 or an 8, I don't know. Maybe we'll see the best of him as an 8. But the assessment that Neil hasn't had a great start this season, I think is an overreaction.
I don't think it's the time to crucify him. To be brutally honest, yes, he's made a mistake. You know, as Labrice mentioned, he was left one-on-one, which, you know, isn't ideal. A comment from Mike Smith actually backs that up and says, "It's a shame Dan Neil is getting so much stick. He's been asked to take on a role for the team till Samed is fit. Then he'll get the chance to push upfield. Poor judgment for the pen, but doesn't make him a poor player overall."
No, he's an excellent player who has been one of Sunderland's most consistent performers for a long period of time, especially in a position that he had no real knowledge of before he took it on after Corey Evans' injury. And I agree with the basic point that I think there are times when we'll see Samed play that role and Neil can push further up, and I think that could be a really nice blend. And I still do think Neil will probably end up as a more attacking midfielder in time.
I've said it a million times. To me, Dan Neil is the player who played and scored against Accrington Stanley at the Stadium of Light. Obviously, he's developed massively since then, but that was Dan Neil at his core, sort of. Well, I think box to box, busting forward. I think,
and he'll be a better player for this spell he's had as a whole midfielder, because he's learned. But you know, and we have said for a long time that Sunderland should sign a proper defensive midfielder, because we feel like that would boost the squad. And I think we've always felt that some variety in that position would be good, and hopefully Samed will be that player.
I think Dan Neil's been asked to play that position because there's probably a consensus at the club, at the Academy of Light, whether you agree with this or not. I probably tend to. Is that technically he's probably the best midfielder we've got and the best suited to, and he's the one player that's able to suit that role.
And at the start of that second half, when Sunderland actually got up the pitch and started controlling the game and seeing more of the ball, Neil was really good. You know, he picks the right passes, he moves it quickly, he plays in the right positions. When Sunderland are up the pitch, dominating the game, playing as we want them to on the front foot, Neil is a very effective number 6. Do I agree that there will be scenarios where you need a different number 6? I absolutely do, and he's never going to be a Claude Makelele as a defensive midfielder. He's not, and I accept that. But we shouldn't overreact. He still has a lot to offer in that role.
We shouldn't overreact, and this isn't me digging out Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg, because the two players I absolutely love, and when they play well I will praise them to the hilt, but Bellingham in that. So once again, me and Phil had a little bit of a nightmare with the video here at Watford. Our iPhone storage was full again, so bear with us with these videos. We're going to try and do them a little bit better, but the point I was making was just on Sunderland's midfield being a little bit out of sorts. Head over to the Sun and Echo website for all the latest analysis ahead of Derby County, and we'll try and get these videos nailed a little bit better. Thanks for watching. Cheers.